What's up, guys? This is Nico from Team Limitless, and in this episode of Road to Sheffield, we will take a look at one of the most interesting decks that came up with the new Sun and Moon set, and actually had a decent showing at Anaheim Regionals, which is Solgaleo Lurantis. First of all, let's take a look at Solgaleo because this is probably the lesser known cards of the two. We have Solgaleo GX, which is a stage 2 GX, has 250 HP. Its ability Ultra Road allows you once during your turn to switch your active Pokemon with one of your bench Pokemon, which is pretty much a switch if your opponent doesn't have Garbodor or Hex Maniac. So having a switch at every turn if you need it is yeah, obviously very good, and in this deck is also necessary because you will have to switch between Solgaleo and Lurantis, but we will get to it when I talk about Lurantis. Then the most interesting, or one of the most interesting attacks is Sunsteel Strike, which is for 2 metal energies, 1 colorless, 230 damage, and discard all energies from this Pokemon. Yeah, 230, which is enough to knock out any non-stage 2 GX. So the only cards you won't be able to knock out are Lunala GX, Solgaleo GX, and obviously Decidueye GX. And yeah, so and all the megas are besides Groudon um, also in range for knockout. So 30 is obviously very good. So, but it obviously has a backdraw, which is discard all energies from this Pokemon. So once you attack with Sunsteel Strike, you won't be able to use it your next turn unless you are like, I don't know, cheating or using something like Max Elixir on one of your bench basics and then energy switches or stuff like this. But usually you won't be able to attach them again. Then its GX attack is Soul Burst GX. For 1 metal energy, you are able to search your deck for up to 5 energy cards and attach them to a Pokemon any way you like. So this means you can attach them to any of your bench Pokemon, any of your active Pokemon. So your active Pokemon, which is Solgaleo in this case, and yeah, you're able to get 5 energies. But the interesting part about this attack is actually um, it doesn't say basic energies. So if you were to play a deck like some crazy stuff, for example, Benjamin from Complexity Card Gaming played one deck on their stream, which is Solgaleo in the regional winning Darkrai Giratina deck. So you're actually able to get out 4 double dragon energies in one turn, which is, yeah, a lot of damage for your Darkrai, but also very inconsistent. So yeah, but it's very interesting to note that you're actually able to get special energies as well. Um, yeah, other than that, we have pretty much classic fire weakness, resistance to metal, and then the retreat cost, which is not a surprise for such a big Pokemon. So yeah, nothing too surprising in the yeah, normal um, stuff. So yeah, then we obviously have Cosmog and Cosmoem. We have 4 Cosmog to be able to get our Cosmog as consistent as possible, and 2 Cosmoem to, even if we don't draw our rare candy, um, get our Solgaleo in play at turn 3 at last. Then our second part of the deck, which is Lurantis. Lurantis is a stage 1 GX, has 210 HP, and its first attack is Flower Supply, which allows us to attach 2 basic energy cards from our discard pile to our Pokemon in any way we like. So I guess you already see the consistency or like the synergy in this case with Solgaleo, which is we discard all energies with Solgaleo, switch it out thanks to the ability, so even if we don't have our float zone, we can switch around, then use Flower Supply, attach 2 basic energies back to our Solgaleo, then attach 1 from hand, or even already have 1 attached from hand, and then use our Sunsteel Strike again. Then Lorenzo's second attack is Solar Blade for 3 grass energies, 120 and heal 30. Um, This attack can come in some matchups. For example, stuff like Vespiquen, which is already a bad matchup, but discarding 3 energies to knock out a 90 HP non-EX just doesn't make sense. So using Solar Blade in the matchup is probably the better approach because you don't have to discard the energies and are actually able to heal 30. So maybe you can even prevent the 2-hit knockout on early turns. And 120 on a grass Pokemon is also very good against Water Box and Greninja. Greninja obviously isn't played a lot anymore because people realize that it's very inconsistent and yeah, also got weaker with the new decks introduced because Solgaleo is able to one-shot Greninja, Lurantis is a grass Pokemon, Decidueye is a grass Pokemon as well, and yeah, just stuff like this. So Greninja is probably not the reason, but Waterbox is actually quite a decent deck. So Solar Blade against Waterbox is a very nice second attack, other than Sunstew Strike, because discarding all your energies can be a pain sometimes. So being able to use this attack is very interesting. Then its GX attack is for 1 grass energy Chlorocyte GX, which does 50 damage times the amount of grass energies attached to the Lurantis. Usually we won't use this GX attack in our deck, but it can come in handy also against Waterbox because with just 2 grass energies we're already able to deal 200 damage. So if their Lapras doesn't have a Fighting Wheelbarrow, this is already enough to knock out a Lapras. So yeah, Close Scythe GX can come in handy, but usually won't use it. Then it also has a fire weakness, no resistance, and retreat cost. Yeah, fire weakness. This gets me to the point where I want to talk about yeah, pretty much the matchups of the deck, if we can even call it matchups in this case, because the deck depends a lot on yeah, what you're playing against. In most cases, you will just be able to win your game pretty easy because you can just take the knockouts every turn. But there are also some decks you just probably won't win against, at least most of the time, which are Volcanion, obviously Fire Weakness, Volcanion. Usually you won't win this matchup, and also Vespiquen. Vespiquen for 2 major reasons. The first reason is that it's a non-EX attack that non-EX deck that can deal a lot of damage, so they're actually able to yeah, put you under a lot of pressure because, as I said, you will usually need 2 turns to get a knockout because 1 turn you charge up your Solgaleo and the second turn you take the knockout. But by the time your Solgaleo takes the knockout, it will already have enough damage for a 2-hit knockout. So Vespiquen can put a lot of pressure on the deck, and also some Vespiquen are running evolutions. So they're either running Vaporeon, Jolteon, or Flareon. So if they run Flareon, they also have the type advantage, which yeah makes it close to impossible to win the game. Also for Lurantis, we have 3 Fomantis. I would really like to play 4 Fomantis and yeah, 3 Lurantis or even 2 Lurantis fine in this case, just to get more basics to be able to get them into play turn 1. But yeah, the space for the stack is really tight, so yeah, we have to deal with it 3-2. Then, other than Solgaleo and Lurantis, we obviously have Shaman because pretty much every deck runs Shaman, and we also have Genesect DX. Genesect DX is a yeah, additional attacker which is able to, for 3 metal energies, deal 100 damage, and we can discard as many metal energies attached to this Pokemon as we want, and for every discarded energy, we deal 20 more damage. This is primarily against Glaceon, because Lurantis and Solgaleo are both evolutions, so we aren't able to touch a Glaceon, but with Genesect we are able to knock it out, so a one-off Genesect is probably enough in, yeah, it's enough in pretty much most games against said deck. But you probably noticed that these are all the Pokemon we're running. So we pretty much have Solgaleo, Lurantis, and Shaman, and then the additional Genesect. Some players, for example, the list that made top 16 at Anaheim Regionals, run Glaceon. Glaceon is one option to win against Vespiquen, but I figured that to make the deck work, I want to take a consistent approach. So I want to have the deck as consistent as possible, so that against any deck that isn't Vespiquen or Volcanion, we will just win because we get our setup. So I decided to cut the Glaceon and take a more consistent approach. So we have 2 Level Ball, 4 Ultra Ball, 4 Rare Candy, 3 Trainer's Mail. Then our supporter lineup is 4 Sycamore, 3 N, 2 Lysandre, and there we have the card I missed in the Drew Bennett list from Anaheim, which is Skylar. Skylar is very good in this deck in my opinion because it allows you to get Solgaleo pretty much every game on turn 2 because if you get a Cosmog in play turn 1 or 2 Cosmogs, so even if it gets knocked out, you still have it, you are able to get out the Solgaleo guaranteed if you have Ultra Ball or Rare Candy in combination with Skylar, because if you have Ultra Ball, you can Skylar for Rare Candy or vice versa. So this is my approach to the deck, which I enjoyed a lot when I played with the deck, and yeah, in my opinion, the consistent approach is a better way to make the deck work because Glaceon usually can come in handy, but in most cases we still lose the matchups it's good against because yeah, you will still have to use Lurantis and Solgaleo, and yeah, you just won't be able to win a matchup just by playing one Glaceon and 1 or 2 water energies. So I decided to make it more consistent. Yeah, this pretty much wraps up the deck list, so yeah, I'll see you in the games. So let's get into our first game, which is against Zeta with Darkrai. Yeah, um, probably the best or one of the best decks in the current format. So if you if you're playing a tournament like a regional level tournament, you're expected to play against multiple of these Darkrai decks. So seeing this matchup in action makes a lot of sense just because you get a feeling for how this matchup is working, and yeah, see pretty much the power of the Solgaleo Lurantis deck, and um, yeah, that's pretty much my intention by showing you this game. As we can see, our hand is looking very decent. We have the Skylar for level ball for a second Cosmog, so even if our Cosmog is knocked out, we still have the Rare Candy Solgaleo and in the potential Metal Energy, and there we actually see he doesn't play an end, so it's actually very likely that we get our setup. But here I actually even draw a Sycamore, so I can get out Lurantis and Solgaleo on turn 2 and use the Sycamore, get the Metal Energy on Solgaleo, and use Soul Burst GX to get 5 additional energies in play, which is, yeah, a lot. So yeah, we pretty much got our perfect setup for this game against the Darkrai deck because the matchup is very good because we are able to consistently one-shot the Darkrai's without being even threatened to get one-shot by one of the Darkrai unless he gets uh, like 5, 6, 7 turns of free energy attachment without us doing pretty much anything. But as I explained when I went over the deck list, I built the deck list to be super consistent so that we don't have to worry about these bad matchups. And yeah, obviously it would have been a lot better to get out yeah, 2 Solgaleos on turn 2, but we should still be fine because yeah, we have the Genesect as a backup attacker to buy some turns if we desperately need to get the knockout. For example, we have the active Darkrai with 40 damage, so we can use Genesect's Rapid Blaster attack, discard 2 energies, deal 140 and get the knockout. But here he actually is very frightened about the Genesect, so he decides to Lysander it, um, giving us an opportunity to use Lurantis a lot more because we aren't damaged. So unless he has a Lysander again, yeah, and he doesn't have a Lysander, so if we get out the Solgaleo, which we do because yeah, we play the Skylar and can simply get a rare candy, we have an additional Solgaleo in play, and there we can actually use Solar Blade to put a lot of pressure on the Darkrai so that in a later stage we could Lysander up this Darkrai, and unless it has a Fighting Fury Belt, we can just use Flower Supply even to knock it out, but there we see he doesn't have a switch option, so we can just take the knockout with Lurantis, and we are in a very good position because we have, yeah, we have a Solgaleo, so there he scoops, and yeah, we get in our second game right away, which is against a very interesting deck, which is Ho-Oh with Lurantis and Smurgle. Smurgle's ability, as you will soon see, allows you to once per turn exchange one of your basic energies with a different basic energy in your discard pile, which is obviously very nice in a deck that, like Ho-Oh, needs a lot of different basic energies. So you are able to attach any basic energy to your Lurantis and just switch it out for grass energy in your discard pile to yeah, use Flower Supply. Yeah, Ho-Oh does 130 and 30 to the bench, and its ability allows it to once per turn if it has a fire energy attached, which isn't one of the required energies for its attack, so there you see he already runs 4 different kinds of energies. This ability allows it to heal 50 damage once per turn, but this doesn't really matter for us because um, Lorento's second attack is a 2-hit anyways because we're doing 120. He heals 50, so he's still at 70, and then we deal 120 again, which is 190. So unless he has a Fighting Fury Belt, it's a knockout, and if he has a Fighting Fury Belt, we can just use Solgaleo to deal 130 and get the knockout anyways, which is the main strategy of our deck. So we should be fine in this matchup, but yeah, again, I want to show how the deck is working because there aren't too many interesting matchups for this deck that are like super interesting to watch for the viewer because you either are able to one-shot your opponent consistently and win the game by this, or you play against something like Volcanion, which is an auto loss anyways. So getting an interesting game against something like Volcanion is, I would say, close to impossible. So just showing the consistency of the deck is, in my opinion, what's the most interesting about this deck because you see how consistently you're able to play a deck that is able to deal 230 damage every second turn. So I would say this is yeah, one of the most powerful decks damage put wise we had in the past few years because yeah, it just hasn't taken this 230. Obviously, we had stuff like Blastoise, Keldeo, Darkrai, Mewtwo decks that need to attach a lot of energies to be able to attack for high amounts of damage, but Solgaleo actually has the 230 written on its card, so you deal 230 for 3 energies, which is very good in my opinion. And they actually used Dust Gathering because my hand wasn't looking too good, and I obviously don't want to use my 230 attack and discard 2 energies just for Smurgle. So I used Cosmog's attack, which can come in handy a lot of times because being able to draw a card in a turn where you can't use Flower Supply to build up your Pokemon or use the 230 attack from Solgaleo, which is Sunseal Strike. Drawing one card is actually very nice because your deck is able to one-shot EXs anyway, so you're able to give up the one turn to power up your Pokemon with Flower Supply or use Dust Gathering attack, which is what makes the deck so powerful, that you are actually able to give up turns because eventually you will be able to deal your damage anyways. So as we can see, we are completely fine with our opponent getting some free turns, because in this turn I will just use Super Rod, um, use the Shaman, and get out a new Solgaleo actually. So using Flower Supply this turn allows me to power up one Solgaleo and put energies onto the other one as well, which is like the best spot you can be in if you have multiple setup Solgaleo. Even if your opponent gets a knockout, unless obviously he knocks out the bench one of the energies, you will be able to get the revenge knockout even if he uses something like N, because um, this deck doesn't have to use too many late game supporters like Lysander or N, because Lysander usually helps a lot of decks to get a cheap knockout on Shaman or stall some turns, but with Solgaleo, if you have this setup Solgaleo on your bench, you can just revenge knockout your opponent's hitter. So for example, in this case, if our opponent were to knock out one Solgaleo with one Ho-Oh, which is hard enough because he has to attack it twice, um, we can actually just, as you saw, knock out the Ho-Oh in one hit. So imagine if this Ho-Oh we just knocked out would have been like a big threat, knocking out multiple of our basics, and then or even just damage Solgaleo for free. Even if he gets a knockout on the Solgaleo, we just get a knockout in revenge. So it's very hard for most decks that aren't either non-X decks like Vespiquen or fire decks, for example, like Volcanion. It's very hard for them to actually keep up with Solgaleo, which is actually what makes this deck so powerful. There we actually see the Desperation move knocking out the Shaman, which even disables him to get this cheap knockout at later stages. So yeah, here I can just go for the Ultra Ball, get out my second Lurantis, so I don't even have to offer him the active one for a free knockout. Just attach one energy to one Solgaleo, because I will be able to attach two energies to the other one anyways. So there's no point in attaching the grass energy to Solgaleo and then attaching one Flower Supply to the first one and then one to the second one, because it's pretty much the same outcome. So I just decided to attach it to the one Solgaleo, so it has two metal energies and one grass, which is pretty much the ideal setup because you aren't sacrificing too many metal energies. And there we have the Lysander for the Renters, but there we actually see the well played of him. So I can just use Sunstream Strike again for the knockout on the last Ho-Oh. So as you saw, the matchup took a little longer than you would expect it to be, because I didn't want to sacrifice too many energies, and I would have to sacrifice a lot if I were to attack the Smurger. So I decided to approach this matchup a little slower, but in the end, once you get this setup with Solgaleo and aren't too far behind, for example, like if your opponent is down to two prizes, it obviously gets very hard. But in this position, if we are able to trade knockouts, in most cases we will just win. So I hope this video gave you a nice insight on how this deck is working, and that sometimes you don't need a tagged out deck, because a consistent version of a deck like this is just enough to do well. So I hope you enjoyed the video, and yeah, see you next time.